Hey guys, welcome back to another art video. This video is a little different than what I'm used to. I'm doing a paint slash opaque marker comparison, and I started getting into this because I got a toned sketchbook and it has a lot of dark colored pages. So I was thinking that if I would use my markers on a dark colored page, it would not show up, like the ink would not show up well on it. So I started getting into opaque markers, and I thought all paint markers were the same, but unfortunately I was wrong. There's a lot of difference between these markers, but as you can see, I don't have a whole lot because I recently started getting into them, and honestly I don't really know how to use them in my illustrations that well, so I don't think I'll be getting any more, but I'll just be talking about like the slight differences between these different markers. So I have a deco color. This is oil based. This is a painty oil based marker. This is another painty, but this one's the finer tip. This one's a medium tip. Yeah. And a Posca. This is the finer tip one. Recollections opaque marker. This is not, like, the packaging doesn't say that this is a specific paint marker, but it's an opaque marker. And then the Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pen in white. This is the only Pitt Artist Pen that is opaque. All the other colors are just like pigmented ink, so they won't show up on darker surfaces. So here's the color chart that I did with all the markers that I got. These first ones are the Zig Painty Fines. These are the Painty Mediums. The Deco color, I only got one of them, and the Poscas are all of these. And the colors that aren't labeled are from my recollection set. So pretty much when I was looking into paint markers, I was looking into the brand that had the most variety of colors, and I found out that it was the Zig Painty. And so I just jumped into the whole set without even noticing that an oil-based marker won't go on dark surfaces that well, because I was trying to make a color chart on this darker colored paper because that's specifically the type of paper I was planning to use these markers on, and it was just seeping into the page. You can see that it's not a bright opaque color. So I was starting to get disappointed on the performance of these markers. I thought maybe it was because I wasn't shaking it properly or something, but the shiny colors showed up just okay. These opaque ones are from the Poscas though, so don't be confused with that. And there was this very strange color called Cream Silk, and it's hilarious. It looks just like a faint glitter pen. It reminds me of that that clear glitter pen called Wink of Stella that a lot of crafters use. It's just a pen with a clear glitter in it to make parts of your images glittery. So that really wasn't what I was going for. Actually, I wasn't going for any glittery colors, but as you can see, Shiny Valentine, Dragonfly, Ice Princess, there's another one, Burnt Caramel, and Cream Silk. They were all really glittery. I was also trying to stay away from the metallic markers, but as you can see, I ended up getting a couple just by accident. You really can't tell which one of the colors is going to be glittery or metallic because the swatches online are just they're just solid colors. They look like this. It's just solid colors, so you can't really tell which ones were going to be glittery, and I got a little disappointed that I got some glittery colors. I'm not really that kind of artist that likes to, that kind of girly artist that likes to make all her images glittery and stuff, but I guess now I'll be forced to try and use these glitter markers. So yeah, and but the Poscas performed really well, and that's because they are specifically a acrylic based paint marker, and that means that it would go on without seeping that much into the page. So I did some silhouettes over here. This one was done with the Zig Painty, these two were Poscas, and this one was the Deco color. As you can tell, even though the Deco color is oil based, it still did go on pretty like opaque. Here, I'll do a little test. It does go on pretty opaque. It does still like seep into the page though, but at least it wasn't as bad as like the zig, because the zig just like it became all blotchy when parts of the ink were seeping into the paper, and even though I was shaking it a whole lot, it still seeped into the page. But I did find a way to use these oil-based markers. So what I did here was I first did some swatches of the colors. This one is Snow Bunny, this one is Clementine, and then I took my Faber-Castell Pit Artist pen and I made a heart and I waited till it dried. And when you use these opaque markers, opaque water-based markers, then it creates a non-porous surface that doesn't make the surface absorbent, so the color showed on much more brighter. The only annoying thing about this is that you need to pre-plan and like overlay parts of your images in like an opaque marker before you use your oil-based marker. And something that does annoy me, I don't know if I can, I'll be able to get it, but you can kind of see it. It's a little shiny. The oil-based markers, they go on a little bit shiny, as opposed to the Poscas. They just go on really nice and flat. And I like the flat colors better because the shiny, it's also a little bit sticky, and I'm guessing that's because of the oil. So yeah, this doesn't just work on like white opaque ink. I also did it on like a metallic marker. This was the Posca bronze, and it does work, but I would prefer doing it with the white, because if there's like a little bit showing through, then I'd rather have it white than like this bronze color. So yeah, here I did a little fruit or something. And then, oh, here's a good example. So you can see where I layered the Faber-Castell Pit Artist pen in the opaque white marker, and you can see all these zig painty fine colors, and they came out really nice and smooth because they were meant to be on like glossy non-porous surfaces. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. I still don't know how to use these markers, because I was trying to use them like how I use alcohol markers or like my Illustrator markers, and it wasn't, this monstrosity was born. But yeah, I still need practice. So back when I thought that all paint markers were the same, I saw these opaque markers on clearance at Michael's, and I got really excited to get them, but they are really bad quality. Like, I don't recommend these, because all my other paint markers, excluding the Faber-Castell, have like a ball inside them that mixes the ink when you're to make sure that like the ink doesn't separate from the water or the medium that they use to thin out the paint. But these markers don't have that. It's just a felt inside them that is soaked up with all the ink, so it tends to dry out really quickly even if you don't use it for a while. So just to give you guys an example of how dry it works. Yeah, so it still does write opaque. Here's on a dark surface. But it's just that it will dry out if you don't use it right away as soon as you buy them. So I don't recommend these markers, but there are a couple of markers I've heard of. There's one called Molotov, and it doesn't have that mixer in the middle, but it has like really watery acrylic ink, so if you just shake it a whole lot, then it should be good. So I think it also, like the quality of the paint that's inside the marker also plays a part in how fast it dries. Lastly, I just wanted to play around with my cream silk Zig Tainty Fine and see what kind of like glittery effects I could get. So I like colored in this random strands of bangs, and I put the Zig Painty Fine on top of it, and you can see it makes like a pretty sparkly effect, but I still don't know how I'll be using this. let's just mess this up because this is really old. So I'm gonna try and make her ribbon glittery. It lays on pretty smoothly, I'd have to say that, but oh, it grabbed some of the ink from the from my painter, not my printer, because yeah, I did line this in a ballpoint pen, but when I was photocopying it, it was my printer ink, so it does grab the ink. I don't know how well you can see that right there on the tip. Yeah, so don't want that to happen. I think it stained the tip. It's not coming off. Alright, so I know not to use this with printer ink, but yeah, so you still can't see it in the camera, but it is a little glittery. Here's another like group of images I was doing on this really dark paper. It's not dark enough that like you won't see regular colors, but it is still pretty dark that you can't make like pale skin tones or anything. It's like decently dark. So let's see, what do I want to make glittery? Let's make her hair buns glittery. It kind of dulls it out at first. I don't know if that's permanent because we're gonna have to see if it dries how it's gonna look, but it looks pretty cool. So yeah, I'm gonna wait till it dries and then show you guys a update. So now it's all dried up, and I did notice that it lays on pretty dark when you first color it, but then it does dry to be clear. So then you get this nice like faint glittery effect. I think the Wink of Stella pen is more like has more prominent glitter. This is really faint. And there's also the Spica glitter pens from, I think, Sakura. It's the same company that makes the jelly rolls, I think. So those, because I never looked in that section before, I never specifically looked for glitter pens, but that's what it reminds me of, like something like that. So yeah, the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my beige Posca. I'm gonna see if I can like put some highlights on this character I drew here. There aren't like a whole lot of places I'll be able to put highlights without it looking a little weird, but I can see myself using this in some cases. Yeah, so this definitely laid on like much more opaque than if I was using the Zig Painty Finds, so I definitely recommend the Poscas over the Deco Color or the Zig Painty Find. Deco Color does make a acrylic based marker, but the thing I don't like about their acrylic based marker is that it has a chisel tip, and it's like this weird really thick 3-point chisel tip, so it looks a bit awkward to use, and it's also much heftier than this marker. It's like a little bit bigger than this one, but it's yeah, it's a hefty marker, and the really big tip makes me feel like I won't be able to get into like really fine detail with it, so I just chose to avoid that type of marker. So that's all for the review. There wasn't a whole lot of detail I could get into because this was mainly just me testing them out a whole bunch of places. I'm not an expert. I don't use these on a regular basis. I literally just got them a couple weeks ago, so yeah, this was a very experimental video. I didn't know what I was doing half the time. but it was pretty fun to use these markers. The Deco Color has better quality paint than these painty markers because it will be a little opaque on darker surfaces. It's just that it will seep in a whole lot more than if you were using an acrylic marker. So if you're using like on dark paper, if you're trying to find a marker to use on dark paper, I recommend the Poscas or the Faber-Castell, but it would only come in white. That's their only opaque marker. They don't have a full set of colors. But yeah, I don't recommend these cheaper ones because they will dry out even if you're not using them. Just like if you keep them sitting, they have a very short shelf life. So I don't recommend them. And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video, I guess. Thank you very much for watching, and hit that like and subscribe button if you want to see more.